All right, I'm back with Jan Martel talking. Now we're going to get into sort of maybe the heavier stuff, starting with the Vugraph issue. So there was a thread on Bridge Winners a few days ago about, I guess, priorities of what gets shown on Vugraph. We'll get to that later, but how did you, because you've been doing Vugraph, you're sort of the Vugraph guru, you run all of the Vugraph at the nationals and the trials. How did you get started in that?
Well, I've always been a big fan of Vugraph, and I used to be unhappy that there wasn't more of it. So I have a basic belief that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So I started offering to organize Vugraph at the nationals and at the USBCs, and it's kind of grown to where it's filled my entire bridge tournament life.
Right. This is sort of what, if I see you at a nationals or something, I'm assuming that you're doing Vugraph stuff as opposed to playing or operating yourself.
That's true. I do get to be an operator at nationals late in the events when there aren't too many tables up, and I'm always very happy to do that because I really like being an operator. So
why don't you, actually, because anyone who hasn't Vugraph worked as an operator before, they probably aren't familiar with the process, and it might seem a lot easier or less labor intensive than it actually is. So what do you do? What's the process for, let's say you've got you're in the round of 8, you have four matches, 8 tables on Vugraph.
What do I do? Okay, that's not what the operator does, right?
No,
we are hoping that this will change when BBO does a new Vugraph program. But at the moment, in order to start a Vugraph broadcast, someone needs to go to one table of the match and load the hands that are going to be played and identify what the event is, what the segment is, what the team names are, and what the score is.
And when you say load the board, you mean?
I take a flash drive, I stick it into the operator's computer, I hopefully navigate to the correct segment of boards.
Right.
I say, we're going to do a Vugraph broadcast using these boards. It gives me some boxes in which I enter the name of the event, the segment, the teams, and each team's score.
Sure.
I have to do that at the very last minute for the second segment and the fourth segment each day because I need to have the score of the event in order to do it.
I see.
And I need to do it separately for each match, even though they are all playing the same boards.
So it's not just a question of having operators at each table. You also have to go to each or one room in each match before every segment
and get it set up. And then I have to hopefully make sure that the operators know what they're doing so that they can start the broadcast, link the 2 tables, not be invisible, name the players. If you watch on a browser as opposed to on the old Windows version of BBO, you know that when you click on a player, you get a picture of the player and a biography.
Sure.
That only works if the players are named in the same way that they're named in the database of that information. So for instance, for a little while yesterday, Sylvia Moss
was coming up as Brad.
Had Brad's lovely picture, yes.
Right, because there's two Mosses on
There were 2 Mosses playing. They were both in the same seat even. And we have to identify them properly by putting a first initial for at least one of them.
And then there's that for a lot of people. Weinstein.
There's so many Weinsteins. And, the Stansbys.
Granovetters.
The Granovetters, the Lewises, the Levins.
Smith, there's plenty of Smiths, usually not in these kind of events, but I was watching some broadcast, the women's World Championship last year, and I noticed that Ron Smith was playing because it was Nicholas Smith.
Right, and usually in the World Championships they use a different database of pictures and convention cards, which is accessed differently so it doesn't mess up. But for our event, for North American events, Al Hollander tries very hard to have our database up to date
Mhm.
with links to useful convention cards and things like
Yeah.
that. And he tries to monitor the broadcasts to make sure that the names have been entered correctly so that they link to those things. But it doesn't always happen. It's hard for us to remember that there's two Mosses playing in different events.
Right. And then having all the operators know the right convention
way to do
to put the names in it. And these operators are paid. They're not, it's not handsomely, really. It's if you're in town, you wouldn't do this as a full-time job.
Right, we pay the operators, basically the operators' pay was based on caddy pay.
Mm-hmm.
They get paid $100 a day, or $50 for half a day, or $25 for one session, which is really, we hope, enough to cover their expenses, but it's not.
And it works out to a little more than $10 an hour. I mean,
whatever it is, it's not very much.
Right.
The reason that operators mostly do it is because it's a great opportunity to watch
Mm-hmm.
top quality bridge from right at the table.
Right.
They enjoy doing it. They don't do it for the money.
And you get to come and hang out with the players. Like I live nearby, so that's why I'm here. I didn't have anything else going on these weeks, so I coming doing the stuff for bridge winners and Vugraphing and hanging out with people I'm friends with. And a lot of the operators are attached to the players. You've got Kate Aker came with Jeff, and there's
Liz
Ortega.
I guess I don't know if she's calling herself Ortega or Dwyer these days.
Kevin Dwyer's
She
wife.
came with Kevin.
Kevin's loose, or maybe Kevin is.
And
loses
obviously
whatever.
I started coming because I'm married to Chip.
Sure. So that's sort of, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that if you're just a spectator, you wouldn't necessarily know. So it's really easy to sit back on Bridge Winners or whatever platform you prefer and say, well, they should do more, they should get more coverage, they should have more operators, they should blah blah blah. But you don't, if you haven't actually done it yourself, you don't know how difficult it is to find operators and the actual legwork that needs to go on on site.
And I think the other thing that people don't recognize is that being an operator is a harder job than they think it is.
It absolutely is.
People are always saying, why can't you get more operators? And then sometimes they come and do a session or two.
Right.
And usually after having done that, they say to me, wow, I didn't realize what a hard job it was.
Right. And operating well is a lot different. It's even if you could be perfect about the spots, which you
none
can't.
of us can be.
I'm pretty good, and I know that I definitely miss spots every session. It's just you see something, you click the trick, and then you notice, oh god, they played a card that I already had them playing before, which is not a huge deal, but it can affect things if you're watching.
Right. We like to have it be right. I remember once I blocked a suit for a player who had not, of course, blocked the suit.
Right.
And then we got to the trick. It was many, many tricks later, and I had to just comment to the audience that the player actually didn't block the suit, only I did.
But then, of course, when a player does something that is pretty bad, then people are always, sometimes
it must
you want
be
to say,
operator.
Right, of course. And sometimes it's like, this really happened, I swear.
That is certainly true.
Yeah. There was one, even I was operating a few days ago, and something happened, and I was like, did I miss a card? It was a 3-card ending, and it went, the player led a card, the one defender was winning the trick, the other defender just instantly overtook. Not a very good play. And I was like, well, maybe I missed a pitch, or maybe this was a stiff. But it wasn't. It was like, no, I had gotten all the spots right. It was just sort of mind-boggling. And it's, that's what happens.
It's a long, long tournament, and the players and the operators can sometimes get tired.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And me.
Well, yeah, for sure. So how about, so you're running with limited numbers of operators, and you can't force them to come in and operate, right? If they say, they need the first half off, then
I wouldn't want to force them to do it. I'm incredibly appreciative of all of the people who do come to be operators, and I'm certainly not going to tell them, You can't go and have breakfast
Right.
down at that great breakfast place because you have to be here this minute.
Yeah. So, but then you're always basically running short on operators, no matter what the event is, right?
That's very true.
So
except for the finals of most events.
Finals of most
when I
events.
all at once have more operators than I know what to do with.
Right, and I'm not operating in the final right now because the directors wanted to do the operating, right?
That's
so I'm here interviewing you, and then I get to go home a little early, which is I don't. That's not all bad by any means.
Great. And you get to be a commentator, so you can comment.
I get to be a commentator, of course I do. I
The
guess
other
I'm part of
area
the problem,
that I-
right? If I'm not part of the solution.
That's right.
I guess I shouldn't go comment.
The other area where we often have problems is getting enough commentators and getting good commentators.
Yeah, it's hard work. You have to actually pay attention to what's going on at the table.
Helps if you know what the people play.
Right. And you can't if you're actually trying to comment well, you can't commentate well, you can't flip back and forth, do something else, watch TV. You have to actually be thinking about the hand from the player's perspective, and it's a lot of work. I mean, I see a lot of very good players just kibitzing without saying anything. And even though they'd be good commentators, they wouldn't. I was having a conversation with Bart Brambling last night while I was the Vugraph operator and he was watching. And we were talking about, this was the hand that Brad Moss was playing 6 hearts. So without rehashing that hand at all, we were having a discussion about the play. But I didn't want to do analysis as the operator because it's difficult to do. It's hard to analyze well when you're trying to follow the play and talk to people. And he finally said, well, someone should say this. And I said, you should, unless you don't want to, right? And it turns out that Brad had noticed something that Bart hadn't. Bart could see all the hands, and Brad had found basically, you can argue whether it's a better line of play to start, but it was certainly different. It was an option that Bart hadn't noticed. And Bart is obviously a world-class player and analyst, and he was thinking about this hand, and he had missed something. He would miss something that the player at the table saw. So it's obviously very, very difficult.
Yeah, it is, but on the other hand, it's actually a really good thing to do for your bridge.
Sure.
I used to comment whenever I could find the time, and after one bridge tournament, Chip said, you really play better after you've been been a commentator before the tournament. He used to complain that I was spending too much time commenting. But he changed his mind. But now, of course, I really never have time to play, so it doesn't help anyway. Or to comment.
It is really difficult. I try to limit my commentary when I'm Vugraph operator to what's going on at the table, and when people are being overly critical of the players, to remind them that it's more difficult at the table when you can't see all the hands.
Yes, and often seeing all the hands distorts your idea of how something should be played.
Yes.
You know what's going to work, and
Right.
you can't really focus on the fact
it's
that the declarer has to worry about what if this suit doesn't split.
Right, exactly. You can see, his spades are 4-3.
Of course it's splitting. Why don't you just get this hand over with?
Exactly. And obviously, the players are obviously much better than on average than the commentators. So it's easy to miss what's going on in experts' minds.
Yeah, I always think the greatest commentators are the ones who can try to get into the players' heads and say what they're thinking about. And I find as an operator, the one thing that I try to do is when things are taking a really long time, for my own edification, I try to figure out what is it that they're thinking about.
Right.
Because that can help you
Very educational.
learn something.
When someone, the hand earlier in the week where Bobby Levin docked it when the club lead Queen third, and Bobby Levin docked from the ace. No one at the club would ever find this play. It maybe it wasn't the right play, but if Bobby Levin's thinking for 5 minutes about something, it's obviously about whether to win the ace or not. So you should, you've got plenty of time to think about it yourself and figure out what he's trying to think about.
Why might you not?
Right. Yeah. So with limited operators, there's the question of priorities and who gets shown and who doesn't. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little about what the process is for deciding which matches go on Vugraph when you have to make choices.
Basically, we try to have the matches that most spectators will want to watch. Mm-hmm. The tournament is being run primarily for the players.
Right.
And if there's an issue where we could do something that the players would prefer, but the Vugraph audience would not prefer, we always do what the players would prefer. On the other hand, Vugraph is clearly for the spectators.
Right.
And when we have to decide which matches to show or what operator to put at what match or
Mhm.
something like that. I try the best I can to have the matches that most of the audience would like to watch.
Sure.
We can't always do what everybody wants, but I can usually make a pretty good guess at these tournaments about what's going to be most attractive. At the Nationals, in the early rounds, I try to poll bridge winners to get a feel for which matches people would most want to watch. And at the Nationals, we lean towards having non-US player or European players on the first half of
when
the
it's
match.
prime time in Europe.
Right.
And then you tend to have closer matches. You put the close matches on at the half.
Yeah, my rule for the half is that we put whatever's closest.
Right. Yeah, that's obvious. I don't often, that's often not the matches I'd like to see personally, but that's the way it is.
It's often not the matches I'd like to see either.
Right. So, but that's what happens. I mean, and you have to make choices.
That's right, and I don't think we're going to replace human operators with machines very soon.
No, you
So
need to
we
have
can't
flawless
cover
technology to catch the cards.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, like if some players, I mean, there are a few that come to mind. They hide their cards. They play the card. They turn it quickly, and if they, I mean, unless you can train all the players to be perfect about putting the cards in a zone where some kind of card reader can read it, you can't use machines because if the computer misses a card, it doesn't know what suit's being played. It can't extrapolate. It can't guess. Or I mean, maybe it could. I don't know about computers, but you would think it couldn't.
And again, that is one of those things where the tournament is for the players. I'm not going to say you can't play the card the way you want to play it because
Right.
I can't see it.
You have to.
That's not. I don't want to say it's the tail wagging the dog because obviously there are many more spectators than players, but the players are the people for whom we primarily run this.
It's a privilege to be able to watch what's going on, and you should not impose upon the players. So, your husband though, he puts his bidding box. He puts his bidding box right here. And the notepad where he's writing his explanations is right there, and I can't read a single thing he writes.
Oh, the reading notes is an incredibly difficult problem, and I do hope that we will have that one solved for next year.
Oh, really?
Because we are hoping to do bidding next year on tablets instead of with a bidding box, and the explanations will be written on the tablet.
And
the
automatically,
operator will miraculously have access to what is written on the tablet. So they won't have to have really good eyesight, especially eyesight that can get through,
right.
Superman eyesight, so you can go through a bidding box or through a thing that's been flipped over to the back already.
Right.
It's
is
amazingly hard to see the explanations, and we tell operators you can't be obvious about it.
Right. You got like.
You can't do that because then the people on the other side of the screen will know that there has been an explanation made. Yeah. So I do hope that would be great. I really will be happy when that happens.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of stuff that you can only guess, and stuff like there's a lot of nuance that is lost. Even if you can guess roughly what it is based on the hand and based on what's normal. Maybe they're doing something different.
Right, and sometimes they write something that you sort of can see, but you can't really see all of it, so you don't know whether there's an equals there or whether there's a might be or it's very hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're running really late again. I think we're gonna have to do this third part. But
sorry.
This is fine. It's just it'll take longer to upload to YouTube, and it'll test the endurance of the people who want to actually watch.
Maybe you could cut some of it.
I mean, someone probably could, but I don't have any technical knowledge. So, if people have cut together on Bridge Winners, they've cut together the videos of the cheating pairs and, kind of like a...
It's amazing.
So if Michael Clark or whoever does that wants to cut together the highlights of these series of interviews, they have my permission.
That sounds like a great idea.
All right.